Hello, I hope you guys are ready for another lesson on theory for synth design. So today we're going to be talking about envelopes, how they work, what they are, and how we can implement them in SERUM. But keep in mind, this works for basically every single kind of envelope, which pretty much every synthesizer has envelope. That's how they all work. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so here we have SERUM. The envelopes are on the bottom left right here. And there's only 3 of them in SERUM. I don't think that there's any way to adjust that. We have this envelope 1 right here. For now, they pretty much look all the same, right? But the important thing to consider when looking at envelopes is, you might have heard of it before, it's called ADSR, which is attack, decay, sustain, and release. Pretty much every single envelope works this way. Some have extra features like the hold, and some of them don't have a sustain, or some of them don't have a release. And the decay is what acts as the release. Now, I'm going to go over like what all of that means right now. So basically, it's good to think of an envelope as sort of like a graph, like a chart. So the attack is how long it takes for you to get from this value, essentially 0, to the max value, essentially 100. Some softwares will let you decrease this. In fact, I don't think this one can. But it basically means how long it takes to get from 0 to 100. And in the case of envelope 1 in SERUM, this is routed to the master gain, essentially, so the volume. So this is going to kind of shape the overall sound and how it is going to feel. By default, set to the output. So what does that mean? Right now, it has 0 attack and 0 release. So this means that, oh, and I should also mention, envelopes are unique, different from LFOs because they are triggered. They are triggered by something. So you would trigger an envelope by pressing a key. And you'll notice as soon as I press the key, you'll hear the sound. There's no delay. And as soon as I let go, it goes away. So if we adjust the attack and turn it up, we're telling it to take longer to get from basically negative infinity decibels to this amount here. And we can turn it up longer to have it take even longer. Okay, so that's essentially what attack means. And hold, we'll get into that, but let's get to decay. So whereas attack is from 0 to the peak, decay is from the peak to the sustain level. So this is the sustain level. Right now, it's at 0 decibels, meaning like the loudest it can be relative to the overall pitch or the overall sound. So you're not going to notice if I change the decay, it's not going to really make any difference right now because right now your sustain is at 100. But if I were to turn the sustain down, you'll start to hear the decay. Hear how it gets quieter over time? Turn the sustain down even lower. And the decay is a time function, which lets us know how fast we're going to go from this value to the sustain value. The sustain is basically as you're pressing the note down, where is it going to rest at as you're holding the note down? That's the sustain level. So if I were to hold a key down, it's going to stay at that same level until I let go. So that's all that means. This one's a little different because it's not like necessarily a speed function. It's just a loudness function. And the release is going to let us know, tell the software how long after I release the key it's going to take to go from the sustain level down to 0 again. So if we turn it up, we're gonna hear more of a tail. Okay, so why does this matter? Why do we care about any of this stuff, right? Well, when it comes to synth design, a huge part of how it sounds is how fast the sound hits, where it sustains at, and how long it takes to go away. That's a huge element of the character of any sound, really. And the more that you delve into how that all works, you'll kind of understand how it's all connected and how you can like think about other sounds in real life as what their envelope would look like. So what do I mean by that? If I were to get like a violin, let's say I was trying to sort of emulate a violin. Okay, I'm not going to do it super great right now, but let's say I'll do this. I'll give a little vibrato. We'll do the LFO, and we'll send it to the global master tune, and we'll just do literally 1, and we'll also have that be the mod wheel. So and this is so slow, so we're going to turn this way up. I'm gonna take it off of the BPM. Okay. So, you know, not a great sound right now, but this is just for the purpose of this video. So, now let's think about what a violin sounds like. Well, do they have like really like harsh, like loud attacks and sustains? No. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. They usually kind of grow over time and then slightly decay after, right? Okay. So already we can see how shaping the envelope is going to get us a very different sound than how we started out. Now let's say we wanted to do something like a pluck. Well, we know that plucks do have a very quick, they sound immediately, and then they have a very quick decay, and there's not a lot, there's no sustain really, right? Like you can't sustain a pluck. It's a single instance and then it goes away, right? So that can inform us on how to shape the envelope if a pluck is what we're trying to get. So, like I said, there's no sustain on plucks, right? So we're going to take this all the way down. And we're going to take the attack all the way down as well. I never go like all the way because like in life, nothing is like 0 to 100 immediately. So it's always going to be a little more realistic just to have a little bit of attack on it. Okay, and let's do even less. Okay, now you might be thinking like, it's not really sounding like it. Well, you'd be right. And the part of that is because the decay is way too long. 1.45 seconds, they don't decay like that. It decays way faster. Okay. And one thing we can do if we were trying to make this more realistic is there should be, actually I don't know if this has this. Yeah. How would I, Yeah, okay, so way more plucky, right? This cutoff really definitely helped getting that plucky sound. So that's another instance of shaping the envelope to get a particular sound using only the volume. Now, this is where it can get kind of fun. When you're working with pads or sort of more complex sounds, sometimes you want something that's going to be sort of changing over time. So what I like to do with this is, you know, let's make a pad. And what we can do is we can take a secondary envelope and route it. You can click it on really anywhere on here and then route it to the cutoff. So what does that mean exactly? Well, if I were to take this down, this point right here is going to be this starting point right here, the very left of this little highlighted area. And then this top part right here is going to be the top of the highlighted area as you're turning it up or down. So it's like the knob is going from its lowest point to the highest point. And you can set how far that distance is by touching this part right here and then dragging it up or dragging it down, or you can go to the matrix and you can do it this way. So normally, like, you're not gonna want anything like this insane because it's quite a drastic difference. But let me show you how changing the envelope on the cutoff can really make a sound way more interesting. So right now we're not really hearing anything because it's pretty much as soon as we play it, it's going all the way to the top of the envelope and then pretty much right back down as soon as we're done. So how do we make it more interesting? Well, with plucks like this, where we have the attack like this and then the sustain is somewhere in between, I like to have a different sort of attack like this. And what I like about SERUM is it does kind of show you all of the other envelopes that you're working on. So you can kind of compare. I like to have the secondary attack on the cutoff actually come after the peak of the volume envelope. So, or amplitude envelope is probably the right term for it. And then take the sustain quite a bit lower. And usually you kind of want the releases to pretty much match. But let's see how that sounds. Cool, right? Let's push it even further back. Here, like that offset kind of creates this, like, I don't even know. It's like waves crashing. Very interesting, right? So that's another way to use an envelope. But the beautiful thing about all these modulators here is you can apply them to essentially any single one of these parameters. So if I wanted to, let's say, go to a different kind of, let's do something like a pulse width. So yeah, so when we're going across the wavetable, it's doing all this, right? So let's say we wanted to have that be more interesting. So again, this part is going to be the lowest point and this is going to be the highest point. So let's have it be sustain like over here, and let's have like an even longer attack and then a pretty long release. What does that sound like? So already I'm sure you can kind of hear it now, but it's a way to really, really complicate your sounds and get really into these like cool pad that's reactive to how you're playing it on the keys, right? And that's the whole kind of crux of an envelope versus like an LFO, or versus really any sort of other modulator that you might use, is that envelopes are tied to your key presses. So they are like cool because it's a very playable thing, and it can kind of teach your brain to think about how other sounds in real life actually work, and how you can sort of emulate or replace a sound in your song. But that's how you use it. Before I finish this video, I did want to go over what hold means, although at this point you might have a pretty good idea of what it means. But essentially, as we see, it's after the attack and before the decay. Really what it's telling us to do is how long to hold at this point before the decay starts. So I think, yeah. So that's what you would think it would look like given that context. And it's just another great way to customize your sounds. Not every synth plugin has this. Not every synthesizer will have that function, but that's what that is. And it's just another way to add more depth with an envelope in your songs. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found that very useful. If there's any other way that you figured out how to use the envelope to modulate anything, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. I think modulators are so fun, and part of the things that make synthesis so like a never-ending field of whatever you want, and I think that's really fun. But yeah, thank you again for watching. If you liked what I had to say and it was useful for you in learning on your own synth journey, then please give me a subscription, as I will be talking way more about this and going way into depth. And if there's any other aspect of SERUM that you don't quite understand what it does or why it's useful, leave a comment and I would love to get to it and make a video on it, because it's really fun to delve into all these things and sort of read the user manual and figure out exactly how far you can push software like SERUM. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and y'all have a great whatever day it is.